Well, happy Wednesday and welcome to Healthy and Active in the Couve. I am Nick Medlock, a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. That's hard to say today, but with NASM, and I work with Northwest Personal Training. And with me, as always, is Dr. Trent Corey, who is a doctor of physical therapy, and we have some very fun things to talk about. Maybe not so fun when you really look at it, but I'm excited about the topic because in our current day and age, this is a highly significant topic because back if you're thinking, maybe 10,000 years ago, you would have stress from maybe a tiger running at you or a mammoth running at you, and then you could kind of shake it off and go and live your day. But now in the modern era, we have stressors all the time that we don't even think about. And yes, we're going to talk about stress, anxiety, and maybe even trauma. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty and into the weeds and try to make it as short as we can. But we want to talk about the nervous system, maybe even the vagus nerve, and how stress impacts the body. So I'm going to let you take it away, and then I'll ask you as many questions, Trent, as I can think of.
Oh, sure. Great, Nick. Yeah, basically, hey, just we can just have a nice talk back and forth. I think it's going to be a great conversation. But yeah, with stress, I mean, we cannot have an absence of stress, right? Like we're not talking about that. Like we need to have a certain amount of level of stress that creates, we talk about hormetic stress, like stress that creates our resilience. We need to stress like you do with working out with clients. So do I. We build that resilience and strength. So we're not just trying to like bliss out and say, oh, that's fine, right? It's more about, hey, how can we create a more resilient nervous system to be able to withstand the stresses we do, have practical strategies to then address those issues. That way we can manage our day very well and just kind of do it in more of a targeted way that, is focused on what we need to do during our day. And the relationships we need to do, or we have money stress or whatever. But then the next thing is then creating that environment. So our human body, right? This
Mhm.
nervous system, this as we take in all these things, this pace of our world is so fast.
Yeah.
And there's so many things coming at us from all different angles. How can we be able to manage those with a lot of maybe the technology that we have, or just simple ways to manage things so we can get through our day a lot better? And so it's very important. It's the root of a lot of major problems in our lives physiologically, heart problems and all sorts of, immune system response. All these things definitely create these shifts. And we want to make sure that we are as healthy as we can. We want to be healthy and active in the Couve,
Yeah.
not stressed out and, weak in the Couve, right? We want to make sure we are as strong as we can be. So yeah, looking forward to talking.
Yeah, so I love that you already hit on some of the things. I want to first address that there's differences between like physiological stress, kind of like stimulation kind of stress. Like, well, I would say that working out, like you were saying, is a stressful thing for the body, but that's actually good for you to help you process things. And I would call that like acute stress. That would be like at a certain point in time where we're just dealing with that. And then there's that chronic stress where it's kind of like back in the background of our body or in our brain and our nervous system. And What do you think would be the differences for our body and our mental health and even emotional, physical health between the two of those variations of the acute versus the chronic?
Yeah, I mean, like you said about the lion or whatever, right? Like, so, these things kind of come on and then it's about how we can process it and then let it go, right? So if we can let it go physiologically, like when we're done working out, we do get that period of rest. And we need
Mm-hmm.
to make sure we prioritize rest. I mean, with my runners, that I see in high school or, clients that I see, we got to do our fair amount of exercise and building up, but then we got to give that time recovery. And that's almost as important, if not more important. And a lot of us, we maybe want to press and keep going, or we never turn it off, or we have these ruminating thoughts about things, or, constant stress of like, say a loved one is going through something medically and, end of life thing, or like there's so many things that can be that stress is just going to be there, and we have to be able to manage that the best we can when we're there. So we try to just dissipate that the best we can with strategies, if it's breathing or if it's a meditation practice, or just kind of even just counting backwards from five and just letting it just, let yourself just kind of relax in the moment. Try to be as present as possible. That's kind of what we want to try to be, is a difference between, you know, trying to eliminate as much as we can on that chronic strain where it's always in the background running. If
Mhm.
you're on your computer a lot, you might have a lot of tabs running at the top of your screen.
Yeah, yeah,
So if you have too many tabs running, that's when our energy just gets depleted. Our life force just kind of starts to kind of notice it. And I've noticed that as a business owner. I'm trying to get more clients, and I'm trying to be busy, and trying to do my best with all different things. And I
yeah,
have to recognize where I might have this energy leakage happening, and that I'm making sure that I'm make taking care of myself. Like, just hopping in the Epsom bath a couple of days ago. That was nice. Like, I went for my nice cold run outside,
yeah,
got some endorphins flowing, got in the Epsom salt bath, and I was amazed at how calm I felt, because I was able to just physiologically allow my muscles to get nutrients they needed,
yeah.
taking care of myself, right? So it's super important to make sure that, there's so many people with such big hearts, and they help everybody in the world, but they don't help themselves.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that, if you can't really give if you don't have anything in the tank, so you need to take care of yourself. So hopefully that explained a little bit the between, trying to avoid trying to be overly chronically stressed, because that effect is so hard on our systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to go kind of into a little bit of describing some of the effects of stress. And I'm going to qualify it as the chronic stress of our modern day and age. But like you were beginning to say, the cardiovascular effects, raise in blood pressure, even blacking up of the arteries and things like that. And then that constant fight or flight response. I know in studying breath work, you were talking about meditation. One of the sure symptoms of somebody who's always in fight or flight is like shallow and rapid breathing.
Yeah.
So, and I know one way to talk about like the vagus nerve kinds of things I do a lot in my yoga classes is kind of stimulating where the vagus nerve innervates, like in this area, and kind of like playing with your earlobes or in the inner ear and doing like jaw wiggling and things like that. But also just taking slower, deeper breaths as well to change the carbon dioxide oxygen levels in our bodies. And I can see visually when I'm leading a yoga class that's purposefully getting us out of fight or flight, people's like you can see their shoulders just kind of start
Yeah.
to melt away, and so that vagus nerve, I'm going to say like when it's like really stressed out, the vagus nerve kind of vagus means to wander. I know you know all this, but it kind of wanders through our whole organ system, and when we're stressed, it taxes. I would say every system in our body, our immune system, even our brains, our digestive system. It has metabolic effects. And then that chronic stress can lead to mental health. And I would call that kind of like not even just body trauma for what it does to the organs and things, but mental trauma. And that, like you were saying, that looping over and over, those repetitive thoughts and things like that. And then those repetitive thoughts lead to hormonal changes that then, we're not a mind and or a body. We're a mind and a body. It's like we're a whole person, which is what we've been trying to stress over and over. But our thoughts really change the atmosphere, so to speak, of our body, and vice versa. So I love that you take the Epsom salt baths. That's something I tell everybody all the time. Magnesium gets absorbed, and that helps with the vitamin D absorption, but it also helps relax, and that builds up your immune system on top of helping other vitamins absorb and everything. So it's like they're little things, like even pulling on your earlobes or taking baths, which some people are like, oh, I don't take a bath, but I'm like,
Right.
well, you should, or use magnesium oil or something. But it's more, it's not, we live in an over stimulated culture, and we need to learn how to just literally sit back and take a breath.
Excellent. Absolutely. That's exactly right. Trying to make sure we are paying attention to what our body really needs. And, like you said, just get magnesium. You can just basically, most people I've just assumed it's just like it's probably low, right? Like,
Yeah,
most people are low. So definitely try that out. It's really amazing how that can calm things down. I mean, some people may not want to do this, but CBD can be really helpful, very
yeah,
calming, very help. So I've had someone with like a lot of neck pain or jaw pain or that kind of stuff. I'll look at what's going on up in here and how much they're breathing apically, right? How much they're tensing up in their upper spine. And so those scalenes are kicking on as accessory muscles of respiration. So can we get them, lower into the rib cage and out, and those kind of things create a deeper perfusion of oxygenation, which creates a calming signal to the body, which creates all these really good healthful effects. So one of the things is like trying to get that to calm down and normalize the breathing cycle. It's just so simple and positive, and it's amazing how many people are just always up here. So
Yeah.
can we get those to calm down? Can we actually show people some exercises to just do some retraction and just kind of be more in a better position versus crane forward, tight here, and just breathing shallow? So super important things physiologically. And then, you can talk about B vitamins and C and, all these different things that people need to kind of look at a profile, what they have in terms, because if your body's on chronic stress, you're kind of taking out from those energy reserves, and a lot of people are low on many critical nutrients, and that's not my alley, but like, and a little bit about this for sure, but
Yeah.
some people need, a little bit more of an audit of what they're doing and what they're getting in their body, and not just assume that they're just, hey, I'm eating well. There might be just certain things that you're really deficient in. I've seen people with just amazing shifts, they get a B12 shot and all of a sudden they're like, holy cow, I feel so much better. I mean, there's so much more involved with hormonal changes with people, especially as we get older. I've noticed this myself as I'm into my 40s now. Definitely things shift quite a bit. And so you need to take a look at that and just see what those are all about. But then one more thing I just wanted to mention is just getting connected to the earth and just talking, just getting grounded. I always get looks, but I walk around barefoot even here in January,
Yeah.
getting on the ground and just letting that electromagnetic frequency of the earth become more of my normal, the Schumann resonance, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, 7.83 hertz or whatever it is. So I want to be vibrating at that because we know that these exist in front of us. They do not do 7.83 hertz. It's
Right.
a lot of vibration. There's so many waves going through us, and that's leading to some degree of an anxiety. And there's a lot of things that just happen from that buzz that's happening, or the constant need to get some information. That's kind of like an addiction onto dopamine. But I'm also just talking about physiological waves that are going through our bodies that are causing us to be on an extra sense of anxiety and tension. So can we get outside? Can
Yeah.
we be, getting the wireless, the Wi-Fi from the sun?
Yep.
Let's get
Yep.
connected there.
Yeah.
Take a few breaths. If you can do that, and I recommend at sunrise every morning. Can you get out there as soon as you can? Get barefoot on the earth if possible. Look
Yeah.
towards the east and look for the sun, and just get those rays into your eyes. It creates a profound physiological effect, and you'll find you'll feel a lot better. And trying to do that throughout the day to break free of indoor, even if you don't do any of that, just get up from your desk, away from the electronic signals, take your phone, leave it away, even just take off your watch and
Yep.
just walk around. It's okay if it doesn't count on your walking steps. It's okay. But the main thing is, can we just take a breath and then just pay attention to who you're with?
Right.
Like, so many times we're just like, we're zipping and zapping and we're like, hey, that person I live with, I probably should connect with them a little bit. So,
Well, we've talked about that before. That's when you connect in a good way,
yeah.
that creates another hormone for you that lowers your stress hormone. It's oxytocin and cortisol. You know? But the outside aspect too, we were just talking about magnesium um, corresponding with vitamin D. And when you're out, I hear a lot of research lately where they're starting to treat vitamin D like a hormone, and that a lot of people are also deficient in that because we're indoors all the time, and
Yeah.
even sunlight through windows changes the effect of all of the frequencies of the light. So even just stepping outside, even in Washington, when there's clouds out, you get a lot different of the vibrational rate of the true light that's out there, that helps you produce the vitamin D and the cholesterol in your body and everything, which helps with your mental state. It helps with your immune system. It helps with your energy. It helps with all of your like so many. I could go on and on. So
Yeah.
being outside, just out on your patio, absorbing all of the fresh air out there, it makes a huge difference in your physical and mental and emotional health.
Absolutely. There's a lot of science behind very simple things you can do, which is what I like, you know. And so yeah, and vitamin D is a hormone. It's actually, it's documented as such, and it basically we need it. When you're going outside in January in Washington, you ain't getting it though.
Right, right,
Even with if you just have your skin, even if you just have this much exposed, right, your hands maybe and your face
right.
probably for most people this time of year. Even if you're getting some on your skin at noon, there's an app called D-Minder, and I have that app, and it'll tell you what you're getting, what the UV index is, and then based on how much coverage, how much vitamin D you're actually getting. And it says the next chance to get D in this state is, right now is I forget, it's like February or March or something. It's a ways. It's not
Yeah,
like tomorrow at noon. And so taking, not saying you have to take the things, watch what you prescribed, what your doctor says, or get the consultation that you need to see where you're at. But most people are super low here.
yeah,
Super important to make sure, and I supplement with that for sure, and a pretty high level, and that has helped me stay stronger and healthier for a long period. But really cool stuff about the physiology of just, I make sure my glasses are off so I get that light into my eyes. There's a whole, if you read Joe Dispenza's book on becoming
yeah.
supernatural, he talks of, there's a whole chapter on the pineal gland, which is fascinating about the the physiology, the chemical structure of melatonin, and what actually gets created is the precursors of melatonin, serotonin, and different processes along the way that happen. But it all starts with in the morning. It
Yeah.
goes through this like in the morning, you eyes get exposed, the rays go in, it goes to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, creates these shifts in the body, and then creates these precursors like 5-HTP and tryptophan. I mean, there's different. It's really physiologically interesting, but you don't have to know all that. All you have to know is get up in the morning, get connected to nature. I've definitely found a difference when I've made that more of my practice. When I go without it, or if I'm busy on work in the morning, and then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock, and I'm like, I haven't been outside yet. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I need to get outside, and I'll take my shoes off and go walk around. So, super simple things, and it can make a big difference. So.
Well, and Andrew Huberman talks a lot about that. I love Joe Dispenza also. And Huberman was talking about how that resets your circadian rhythm when you do the solar, kind of like sun staring, not directly at it, or even just getting that morning light in your eyes. But he was saying also, the sunset is important too to help reset, especially with all the artificial light, and to get that variation of the colors kind of helps later on in the night if you're having, not that you should be on your phone before you go to bed, but it helps protect you a little bit against some of those things. Like the phone lights and then the lights above you, if you're at your
Yep.
house, lights right here, kind of tricks your brain into, hey, it's noontime. I'm going to take that melatonin that you're starting to develop and turn it back into serotonin. And
Right.
then you have trouble sleeping, and then which creates more stress in your body and sleeping disorders, and then different complications in your brain, heart, and so it's like a whole stress cycle over again. But lowering the light level, even so that your eyes are looking at a different part of the light rather than noon light, so to speak, really
Yes.
helps set the hormones and lower your stress and kind of get you into that circadian rhythm. So it's like, it's bedtime now. And then your body's like, okay, I can sleep.
Absolutely. I mean, like, and that's where a lot of this starts with, right? Getting good sleep is so recuperative for us to get our tank refilled. And yeah, I mean, right now in Washington, it's what, 5 o'clock, a little bit after now, mid-January here, a little bit after 5 o'clock, it starts to get dark. And so any sort of bright lights you're having on at, let's say 7 p.m., your body's getting that different signal to what's going on. So you turn down the lights, but get those softer colored hues, but also the orange. You've probably seen the orange lights or glasses that people can wear. They look a little dorky, and but like these kind of things can make a big difference. I've gone back and forth with doing that. I'd like to get back more into that, but it's also like managing with your family. Why they want to turn the bright lights on. Like, no, don't turn the bright lights on. So, but the more you can kind of get yourself into what a natural light time cycle is, and it's tough with work because you got to get to work in the morning and you're coming home in the dark. So, but just managing these things have powerful repercussions in terms of our health and our biology. The circadian biology, I've studied pretty extensively about the health of your mitochondria and how we need to be mindful of all these things surrounding us that are causing physiological stress. And then when those things are off, and then you have added everything else we talked about, just like kids and gotta pay the bills and all these things we got to manage. We want to make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success for long-term health.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I want to touch on real quick. We're not going to have too much time, but I'd like to extend this as maybe a part two somewhere down the road, and especially if we can get like a mental health expert on here to talk about some like trauma-based things eventually. But I'm going to have this in the notes because like you and I talked about, and I'll just let everybody know, we want to start putting down studies into the notes and descriptions. And so one of the studies I'm going to have in the descriptions is the polyvagal theory in dealing with the difference between stress and trauma, so that the viewers out there can research while we begin to talk on these points, and they can go into more research more extensively. But what would you describe as the difference between stress and trauma, and how does let's call it the polyvagal theory apply to how we would deal with trauma-based things?
Yeah, I mean, trauma can be quantified with, it's kind of through someone's experience, right? So, stress is like something that's causing your body to be a little bit out of sorts. You're creating a little more response in terms of like you're hypervigilant to, responding. And that trauma can be more kind of a long-lasting thing, or it's kind of like you're reliving the thing. And that's at least my perception. I know you have something written down prepared there, but yeah, it's kind of like a pop quiz here. But it's really good to kind of like to think about like how what's going on with somebody, and if, what's seriously something they really need to work through, or just let go, right? Like I've done the Sedona method. I love the Sedona method. Hale Dwoskin, you get that book or just go through his course. He talks about just many things that are very high level things that really happen to people, and this life, we none of us get out of here alive.
Right.
We never get out of here without something major happening. It's not to negate anything that has happened, but to honor that has happened, but to at least like remove that thing that's kind of creating us to stay stuck in that moment.
Yeah.
Is super important. And I love the tapping method too
Oh,
as well. So tapping on the trauma and that kind of thing. So but yeah, polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges, a great book about, very involved. There's a lot about it, but
yeah.
I love like we talked about before. I think we did a little bit back here, where the
Yep.
input comes in, but also working on the ear and that kind of thing. There's a cool thing called the Hulist, and actually there's a nice little electrical stim. There's a vagus nerve stimulator that there's many that are out there commercially available that you can stimulate it and right back behind here, and then your ear kind of all tingles. And sorry, that's kind of about beyond, but like sometimes we have to process these things and figure out how we need to move on from them, but not forget the memory of these things. If it's a trauma of somebody who passed away or whatever, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, definitely a lot to it. And I'm going to have all of the explanations that like you said, I've got it written down. That'll be in the notes. But my favorite description right now is like we were talking about the tiger early on, and you get away from it. This is the tiger that's inside, and the tiger never goes away until you're able to tame the tiger with help, usually from a therapist. But that sets into motion just wear and tear on your nervous system, your mental state, your emotions, and that can cause, if you're asleep, can cause nightmares because that tiger's still chasing you even in your sleep. And like you were saying, that hypervigilance, and it's just like your nervous system is overreacting to everything because there's always a tiger there. It's literally like, chasing you all the time. And that can lead to all kinds of different things. And I like to tell people when I'm doing nutrition coaching, obesity, certain, different diseases of the organs, and all of that can be accumulated and further disease from abuse and trauma and things like that, because your body is constantly in this fight or flight, and you're not able to just rest, digest, and repair and all of the things that you need to do when you're not being stressed. That's that trauma for me. That's the best explanation, is that constant stress where you never get rest.
Right, exactly. So, and it's important for us to make sure that we recognize how often our recurrent thoughts are creating suffering in our lives, and how much that's just the thought, it's not the thing. But we kind of create these loops that happen. Many things like through talk therapy or just traditional, psychological, counseling, that kind of thing can be really helpful. But just basic, important, just understanding, just tapping through it and just kind of going through and having some supportive folks can be really helpful. And yeah, we all have things that happen, and some of them are extreme. So you have to know when you need a certain amount of more professionally guided help to get you through those. And that goes a little bit beyond this talk, like how depression and trauma and that kind of thing, PTSD, how people are now going into psychedelics and MDMA and all these like different really interesting you got to kind of look at what you want to do, but like
Right.
you have something that creates some major life shift. That's especially with Dispenza's work, he's having people go into these very deep transformative meditative experiences where they come out of it and they step back in their own little lives and go, wow, what the heck was I worried about? Like they recognize how great and how beyond everything is, and you're part of this whole united energy, and we're not separate. It's just an illusion. And so
Yeah.
the more you can, and the more I think in terms of that big global process of like we are really all connected in this universe, the more it just completely calms me down. I'm just like, whatever, like I'll get through this. This is just me going through this. I have to go through this in my life. These are things in your life are there for you, for you. They're not, they didn't happen to you. They happened for you. And you can decide to disagree with me. That's fine. But like, this is kind of what I've come to the conclusion in my life, that the things that I've had, they're not something that should be something like, oh, it's supposed to be this way. The more I argue with reality, the more I stress out. So
Yep.
the more I'm just kind of letting things be and do what I can in the moment, then I feel much better. So, for what it's worth, that's really a helpful thing that I found helpful. So.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I am going to have to wrap this up. I love this talk. I want to have a part two, maybe a part eight. I'll see if we can reach out to some of our mental health experts around here. But if you have experienced anything that is traumatic in your life and you do need some therapy, there's really fantastic therapists locally. If you need help finding those, please reach out. Like we're more than happy to help you. I've got one for myself, and she actually when we go into certain work, she does tapping and EMDR and different things like that. And I love it because it gets me into my body, which really helps me get out of my head and that looping, ruminating thoughts and all of those things. So definitely to the unity that happens with the mind and body with that kind of therapy is definitely something I couldn't do on my own. So, but thanks for having this chat with me, and I want to do a lot more. I will let you close this one out, and we're going to have all of the descriptors and references in the notes.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for viewing in and looking at kind of. I'd love to hear more about what you guys want to say. We want to make this better, but we're really happy to share all these fun little talks and make sure that spread it to friends and like and subscribe and all that good stuff. So for now, if we do a part two, we'll mention that. But happy to talk more, Nick. It's been great. So be well, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.